Hey, good morning. Happy Tuesday. We're going to go ahead and continue reading, and then you can fill up the slides when you're finished. So, in July 1910, Fannie spoke with union carpenters in Iowa. Her voice rang with feeling, and her dark eyes snapped. Injury to one is an injury to all, she said. People jumped to their feet, clapping and whooping so hard the ruckus nearly shook the building. Pass the hat, someone hollered. A cap went hand to hand, coins jingled, and bills rustled. The union carpenters donated $1,000, which for the equivalent to today's money, that would be $25,700, to help the striking garment workers in St. Louis feed their families. Fanny spoke as many as 6 times a day, and people listened. So many refused to buy non-union clothing that Marks and Haas had to close one factory. With the money Fannie raised, the St. Louis strikers held out for 2 years until Marks and Haas gave in to the union. Working conditions did not substantially improve, but the company agreed to rehire union workers and raise wages. This is something that was in the news article. Two women fighting sweatshop system to help save bodies and souls of children. This is a story in the Tacoma Times of Fannie's work, Dateline, St. Louis, Missouri, October 16th, 1911. Angel of Mercy, Collier's, West Virginia, 1913 to 1914. News of Fannie's leadership in the Garment Workers Union reached coal miners in Collier's, West Virginia, and she was asked to visit. Fannie found miners' families in rickety houses with no running water. They lived on biscuits and boiled beans, maybe a little bacon. Children fell asleep to the sound of their bellies growling. The men worked sun up to sundown like Fannie had in the garment factory, but they went underground with picks and shovels, sometimes damp and cold, sometimes stooped over or kneeling, but always covered in coal-black grime. Boys started in the mine as early as age 6 or 7. Some nippers crawled into crannies to chip away the coal. Other boys sat along for hours, fighting to stay awake in complete darkness. Their job was to fling open the heavy wooden doors for the mules hauling or through the tunnels to daylight. In Collier's, Fanny saw the bony-legged children and their mother's empty eyes, and she realized that her dream of better lives for all workers was a long way off. Still, she didn't give up. She got busy. Striking was the only way workers could try to influence the mine owners. But Fanny knew that the miners would not stay on strike if their children were hungry. She solicited donations of food and clothing for the miners' families. Her charisma and passion roused the workers as she cared for the sick and helped mothers in childbirth. Union families called her an angel of mercy. In this first picture here, the mules stabled deep underground pulled carts loaded with coal out of the mines. Young mule drivers worked from 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Mine owners considered the mules more valuable than the human workers. Workers could be replaced easily, but mules cost money. Brown Mine, West Virginia, September 1908. The next picture is coal miners' children play in front of the company housing. So this was what they got to stay in that the company gave them. In Granttown, West Virginia, 1915. You can see all the children lined up there. But they all lived, this looks like each door would be for a different family. The United Mine Workers Union raised funds from members across the country to provide food and shelter for workers on strike like these in Ludlow, Colorado, 1914. The miners whispered about organizing a union, and Fannie encouraged them, but a judge had outlawed the United Mine Workers of America, or UMWA, in the region. Men could be fired for even talking about it. Union followers had secret meetings. Might as well starve striking than working, some said, but others argued, too risky. The coal company owned them body and soul. It owned the shanties they lived in, the stores where they bought groceries, and even the schools and churches. The day finally came when each man had to decide for himself. Union leaders marched to the mouth of the Collier's mine with a brass band. As miners came off shift, the union signed up those willing to strike, but mine managers refused to acknowledge that the miners had the right to join a labor union. They evicted families from their houses, dumping everything they owned on the ground. Bosses hauled a trainload of strike breakers to replace the workers, and a federal judge threatened to arrest anyone who spoke in support of the union, whether in their homes or on the streets. So the miners felt like, I'm going to go quit reading here for a second and kind of summarize what we've been reading. Some were saying it doesn't even matter if we strike because we can barely afford to feed our family anyway. Others were saying like, oh, it'd be too risky to quit working. So they finally decided to strike. They wanted to go on strike and ask for better working conditions. And then a federal judge, and a federal means that the United States judge, not a state judge specifically to West Virginia, but a federal judge for America, threatened to arrest anybody who spoke in support of the union. So saying that we support the union, we want better working conditions, and we are willing to strike to get those. If you spoke of that, you could be arrested, even if you spoke of it in your own homes, according to the judge. So the anti-union coal fields of West Virginia came close to the feudal systems of the Middle Ages, where the lower class worked for landowners and remained indebted to them for life. Fannie's attempts to organize mine workers and give comfort to their families was called inciting to riot by the local authorities. So local authorities would be like the police department possibly, or judges, things like that. In this city, they're saying that she's trying to create a riot by asking for fair working conditions. Most of what Fannie was doing at that time would be called social work today. So if you can think about Miss Buskey's our social worker here. We also have Miss Mesna and Miss Knutson as our counselors. So what they're saying is that Fannie was kind of like them trying to help in different family lives or help with students to just make sure that they are safe and protected and have food and shelter. Okay. When you look at these pictures, this is union families evicted from company housing after striking against the Liberty Fuel Company. So that's a big thing to think about when they provide you with company housing, which means they pay your housing or the roof over your head. But obviously they weren't giving them much else than that. If you're not working for them and you strike, they can kick you out of that home. So a lot of these people ended up homeless, but they were still willing to sacrifice their homes for their families just so that they could work for more money and more pay and better working conditions. Over here with the tent, you can see, as in West Virginia, striking miners in Colorado also lived in tents throughout the winter. Having been evicted from company housing, here families posed outside Joseph Zantel's tent. His wife Emma did not come outside for the picture, having just given birth to twins who died soon after. When the militia came to destroy the camp, this tent was spared because Emma Zantel was too sick to move. This was Forbes Camp, Ludlow, Colorado, 1914. All right, you can go ahead and fill out the Google Slides for today, and then we'll read a little bit more tomorrow. Have a great day. Take care.